In Lesson 1-5, you'll learn about subtracting integers. We're going to start off by modeling some subtraction problems with integers by using two-color counters. The yellow will be positive, the red will be negative. If I want to model 2 minus 5 with counters, I would put down 2 positives. Now, if I wanted to take away 5 positives, I only have 2 there. So what I have to do is add some zeros, meaning one positive and one negative, because a positive 1 plus a negative 1 is going to equal 0. So if I go ahead and add some zeros, adding 0 isn't going to change the value of what I started with. I still have 2, and these are just 0. But now I can go ahead and take away 5 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I take away 5 positives, I'm left with negative 3. In the second example, negative 3 take away 4, I'm going to start with 3 negatives. Now if I want to take away a positive 4, I don't have any positives to take away, so I'm going to go ahead and add some zeros until I have 4 positives that can be taken away. Now I'm going to go ahead and take away 4 positives, and I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, negative 7. Another way to solve these problems is to change them to addition problems by adding the opposite. If I were to change 2 minus 5 to adding the opposite, then it's the same type of problem we worked on in the last video. 2 plus a negative 5, they're different signs, so you subtract the two numbers and you get the 3, and then it's going to be negative because negative 5 has the greatest absolute value, or it's furthest from 0 on the number line. In the second example, if I change it to adding the opposite, I have negative 3 plus negative 4, which they're both the same sign, so you're going to go ahead and add the two numbers and keep the sign. Sometimes, rather than saying add the opposite, I'll say chop chop or chop minus, meaning if you have minus a negative, I would go ahead and chop chop and make it plus a positive. Or if you had minus and then just a positive number, I would go and say chop minus or make it plus a negative. Then, of course, you have to remember those same rules from the other day. They're the same sign, you add and keep the sign. And if they're different signs, you're going to subtract and keep the sign of the number with the largest absolute value. Or different signs, find the difference. So anytime you come across a subtraction problem, you're going to change it to adding a negative. This will be necessary when we're talking about subtraction with integers Or in the case of this first example, where you are subtracting a bigger number from a smaller number. 9 minus 12 is going to be changed to 9 plus a negative 12, or chop minus. 9 plus a negative 12, they're different signs, so you're going to find the difference. 12 minus 9 is 3, and then the sign of the number with the largest absolute value. In example 2, negative 6 minus 8, you're going to change to negative 6 plus the opposite, or negative 8. So again, chop minus. Negative 6 plus a negative 8, they're both the same, so add and keep the sign, negative 14. In example 3, 7 minus a negative 15, you're going to change it to adding the opposite, or chop, chop. 7 plus a positive 15. 7 plus a positive 15, there's just two positive numbers. You're going to add them together and you get 22, and it's going to be positive because you keep the sign. Next example. The melting point of mercury is about negative 39 degrees Celsius, and the melting point of aluminum is about 660 degrees Celsius. Find the difference between these temperatures. Well, if you want to find the difference between those two temperatures, you're going to take the high temperature and subtract the low temperature. So the higher one is 660 degrees minus the smaller one, which is negative 39. Now, since it's subtraction with negatives, you're going to change it to adding the opposite, or chop, chop. You have 660 plus 39. And you get 699 degrees Celsius. In examples 5 and 6, you're going to evaluate each expression by first plugging in the values for the variables. So in number 5, 14 minus b, b is a negative 8. So our first step is rewriting the problem, replacing the variable with its value. So minus negative 8. Subtraction with negatives, you'll change to adding the opposite, or chop, chop. 14 plus a positive 8 is going to be 22. Since they're the same sign, we just add and keep the sign. In number 6, in place of C, we're going to put a negative 2, and then minus, and in place of A, we're going to put a 9, and that's squared. Now, following the order of operations, we're going to do the exponent first. So 9 squared is 9 times 9, or 81. So we have a negative 2 minus 81. Now, since it's subtraction with negatives, change it to adding the opposite, or chop minus. Now they're both the same sign, so you're going to add the two numbers. 81 plus 2 is 83, and keep the sign the same, so it's going to be negative. Now, a mistake that kids often make on this type of problem is they end up wanting to go chop, chop, but you never change the first number. You always keep that one the same. So it's chop minus, or add the opposite.